Welcome to another episode of Ritu the Explore Travel Vlog. In this episode, we will explore the fascinating history and captivating stories behind the ancient fortifications that have stood for centuries, tracing the footsteps of generations past. The York City Walls, a historic defensive wall surrounding the city of York in England. The city walls of York are the most complete example of medieval city walls still standing in England today. They are known variously as the York City Walls, the Bar Walls, and the Roman Walls. Beneath the medieval stonework lies the remains of earlier walls dating as far back as the Roman period. Walking around the walls is like going around a square that's 1 kilometer on each side. Each side of the square has a big old gate called a bar. The old city walls of York are like a historic fence around the city. They're about 3.4 kilometers long, making them the longest town walls in England. People built them mainly in the 13th century, using Magnesian limestone and uniquely featured earthen ramparts as their foundation, a distinctive characteristic not commonly found in English town walls. You can walk on top of these walls and enjoy the nice view of the city, but the moats or ditches that used to be around the walls are mostly gone now. In the spring, the slopes of the walls have lots of pretty daffodils. It takes about 2 hours to walk around the walls. The York City Walls includes 4 main gates or bars: Bootham Bar, Monk Bar, Walmgate Bar, and Micklegate Bar, secondary gates, and intermediate towers. There are also lots of towers in between, and you can spot things like windows, arrow holes, and places where they used to put cannons. You might even see sculptures and markings from the people who built the walls. From up there, you can see important buildings in the city. You can see the York Minster from one side of the wall. On the other part of the walls in the museum gardens, you can see the best preserved piece of the old Roman wall. Nearby, there's a tower that's partly Roman and partly from the medieval times. In the same garden, you can find the remains of St. Mary's Abbey and the walls around it. These walls were made when the city walls were built and are the best ones left in the country. Speaking about history, York's history stretches all the way back to Roman times, then passing through the eventful eras of Anglo-Saxon and Viking, followed by the arrival of the Normans, the medieval period, York's role in the Civil War, the Georgian era, and lastly, the city's significant changes brought about by the introduction of the railway during the Victorian period. The York city walls are the best preserved medieval city walls in England. Under the old stones, there are even older walls from Roman times. The Roman walls lasted until the 9th century, when the Danish Vikings came in the year 866. The Vikings buried the existing Roman wall under an earth bank and topped it with a palisade, a tall fence of pointed wooden stakes. Later, in the 13th and 14th centuries, they replaced the wooden palisade with the stone walls that are there now. The medieval period is an important era in York's history, as many of the city's landmark buildings that make up the city skyline were built within this era. In the medieval era, the city walls originally included 4 main gates or bars: Bootham Bar, Monk Bar, Walmgate Bar, and Micklegate Bar, 6 postern or secondary gates, and 44 intermediate towers. The defensive perimeter stretched over 2 miles, encompassing the medieval city and castle. But by the late 18th century, the city didn't need the walls for defense anymore. The walls were falling apart and the gates were too narrow. The walls were also stopping the city from growing. So, in the year 1800, the city leaders asked the government if they could tear down the walls. At that time, many other cities, like London, were getting rid of their old walls too. But in York, the city leaders faced strong opposition, and by the mid-1800s, they had to change their minds. Sadly, it was too late for some parts of the walls, as they were already torn down. In the mid-1800s, they started fixing and taking care of the walls so people could walk on them. They even planted flowers on the old Viking dirt mounds, and slopes are well known for their daffodils in March and April. Now, the walls are an important historical place and a Grade 1 listed building that people can visit. One of the best parts of visiting York City walls is the ability to explore at your own pace. You can start at any of the 4 main gatehouses and stroll along the 2.5-mile circuit, taking in the breathtaking sights along the way. Don't forget your camera because you'll want to capture every Instagram-worthy moment. And let's not forget about the secret passages and hidden gems waiting to be discovered. The walls are full of surprises, like the ancient multangular tower with its well-preserved Roman masonry, or the picturesque Bootham Bar, complete with its decorative battlements. It's incredible to think about all the events these walls have witnessed, from Viking invasions to medieval battles. So if you find yourself in York, make sure to carve out some time to visit the incredible York City walls. It's a journey through history you won't want to miss, and believe me, the stories they have to tell are worth every step. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys at the next one, and don't forget to subscribe.